So guys, let me give you some details about what we're about to watch. This conversation took place back on January 27th of this year when GameStop was on its short squeeze, rising from $5 a share to over $350. And CNBC had on the former SEC commissioner, who is pictured here. Her name is Laura Unger. She was the SEC commissioner from 1997 to 2001. In that time span, we had a huge meltdown in the stock market, which is now known as the dot-com bubble. And in this interview, they are asking her opinions on the Reddit community, Wall Street Bets, YouTubers, so on, about what their role is in the stock market going forward after they just witnessed this squeeze happen with GameStop and people rallying to GameStop's cause to save it from bankruptcy and going to zero in the stock market.
And you just said that on camera. This going viral.
Ape Nation, thank you for helping me pass 200 subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, hopefully I can earn it today.
It's kind of in a difficult period right now. They're in transition, right? There's an acting head. There's 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. And so I believe they are having conversations. I don't know this for a fact, but I would expect they are having conversations behind closed doors. And the question is, what can they do? What should they do?
Now, I would ask the question, the SEC has done nothing since 2008 to the hedge funds and the market makers with using naked shorting, dark pools, failure to delivers. They've turned a blind eye to it. But all of a sudden now that we start to make some money, the former SEC commissioner here is trying to figure out what they can do to stop retail investors from making profit.
Right, given the circumstances, certainly everything is happening in a pretty transparent way. This isn't a back alley suitcase. And
now what she's really trying to say here is it's not like the rest of Wall Street, what they're doing, because we are out in the open on social media talking and discussing about stocks, unlike the rest of Wall Street, which for decades has hidden everything behind closed doors.
Envelope transaction, but it's a chat room that's very public, or at least the reporting of it is very public. So the SEC does have the authority to suspend trading if it thinks that the market is being manipulated.
Now, guys, don't take those words too lightly. I'm not trying to scare anyone. But the fact that the former SEC commissioner would even suggest that the SEC would step in and try to say at this point there's market manipulation by retail investors is a crock.
The unfortunate thing about that is then it almost guarantees that people holding that GameStop stock would lose money.
And I would say for some retail investors, it goes a step beyond that because they could lose everything, be completely vanquished if the squeeze goes to 4 or 5 times that of GameStop or more, and they decide to halt trading.
Because it will impact the market price. But that's something that the SEC could certainly do, and they could sort of suspend trading and sort things out and find out who's saying what, whether there's a correlation to trading, whether there is a concerted effort to manipulate the market, or whether this is just a stock that people are really excited about.
And this is now the second time she's brought this up about the retail investors and market manipulation, negating the fact that for decades now, eons, Wall Street has been manipulated by the hedge funds with their algorithmic trading and using dark pools.
Do you think there has been market manipulation here?
I would say on its face, certainly if it was that obvious, the SEC would have acted. It brings up a really interesting question about who has the responsibility to monitor and regulate these platforms.
She's talking about regulating these platforms. Meanwhile, no one has done anything about regulation on Wall Street. All they do is break the law and they pay a couple fines, but they make 10 times the money on the other side. But she wants to figure out who's in charge of setting our standards.
Is it the sponsor of the platform? Which certainly there has been some concerted effort by some of the trading entities to stop buy orders, but
which was 100% illegal. And what happened? Robinhood got dragged into Congress along with Ken Griffin, and they got a slap on the wrist and went right back to work again, and are still imposing some of these same restrictions. I know it happened with Dogecoin a couple months ago.
Whether the SEC has the responsibility to go in and just monitor and regulate these conversations, and in what way, is not very clear under these circumstances. But it seems to me, on the reporting that I've read, that there are certainly very valid questions about market manipulation.
And if her mentioning this for the third time doesn't alarm anyone at all, saying that we're responsible for market manipulation or the possibility that we're responsible for it, it should terrify you.
And it's probably a mix of
the other question,
participants, right?
Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah,
No,
I was just gonna say, it doesn't what make this harder that it's all happening on social media? I mean, how do you define market manipulation when you're talking about the internet and social media and blogs?
Well, if people actually are saying, let's all buy 1,000 shares now to drive up the price, I would say that sounds like market manipulation to me. Whether they're really doing it, who's the person that's saying it, what's their interest in raising that stock price, and what's the actual impact. The problem is if the regulators do nothing and this happens.
And let's just be clear here. When Laura says this happens, she means retail making money by buying and holding and stopping the hedge funds from being able to short stocks into oblivion.
It really puts a lot of question about the integrity of the market. Right. And it really kind of everybody's scratching their heads over this. What should happen? What is the right thing to do to control this or stop this? Not unlike what we saw on January 6th at the Capitol. Right.
And this is what I've been waiting to get to, Apes. The fact that she would even mention comparing January 6th and what happened at the Capitol to our movement on saving these companies, taking a long position, buying and holding AMC and GameStop. The fact that she would put those two things together in the same sentence should be extremely alarming going forward for the future of our whole movement.
If you don't have the police in there at the right time, things go a little crazy. And that's kind of feels like what's happening with this. Much different, much lesser degree. It's financial harm, not personal bodily harm. But certainly that's the same kind of, platform created frenzy that people are operating under. And these are very trying times. So I think people aren't
they're also very transitional.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, we don't even have a full SEC.
No, exactly. And this is something that requires a full policy solution, right? The same way that some of the social media platforms took down the former president's Twitter account, and Facebook is having an external advisory board review the content. It could be something that requires a broader solution and approach and a real policy mandate.
Now, I don't know if you're watching this and you're a fan of Donald Trump or you're a fan of Joe Biden or whoever, but when they started to do this BS with cancel culture, they put everyone else at risk. People cheered for it and said, oh, this is great. But herein lies the problem, because now they can take down anyone on any platform and not allow free speech to continue for any reason that they deem necessary. Let's not forget, Discord banned Reddit's Wall Street Bets page back in January and tried to say that it was hate speech. If social media platforms have the ability to ban the sitting president, what chance do retail investors have? So my whole point for these two videos was basically just to try to give you an insight into what the former SEC Commissioner Laura Unger thinks about this movement, and possibly what Gary Gensler might have going on in the back of his mind right now, that after this squeeze happens with AMC and GameStop, that they're going to start to implement rules on what we can talk about on social media platforms, what we can discuss. Hopefully this won't happen, but God forbid the SEC and the government try to step in during this squeeze and put a halt to it, and people lose everything. I mean, say what you want, but Robinhood pretty much single-handedly caused the last squeeze to stop short of its full potential. And yeah, they got fined, but they're still in business. They're about to release their IPO. Congress, that's voted in by the people to protect them from things like this, totally blew it and let Robinhood off the hook with barely anything as a penalty. If something goes wrong during this squeeze and the government and the SEC are responsible for it, there's going to be a major problem with over 4 million pissed off apes running around looking for someone to blame, looking for blood. It's just a bad scenario for us all around, and this is why I've always had a problem with this cancel culture and the mob coming after people when we have the First Amendment in this country for a reason. It's to be able to protect you from things like this, and because of big tech and Silicon Valley and the government to some extent, we are losing that. It's being stripped away slowly but surely. All right, apes. That's all I've got for tonight. I'll be up early tomorrow morning getting ready for the pre-market. I know it's a big day for everyone tomorrow watching the line. I hope you guys have a great night. This is Ape Nation. I'm the Massalorian, and I'm out.